question, and this is from Kelley Weigel from the Western States Center.
Thank you. I will try and make this brief because I know you're on a schedule. We are. I'm very proud to be here today with so many people who are trying to make the promise of democracy real. We think that that's what community organizing is about. And I got my start in community organizing in rural Oregon in the 90s. It was a time when human rights were under attack on a regular basis, partially fueled by the fires of economic hardship. And there was one point in my work where we were dealing with 30 different county level initiatives to say that gay and lesbian people were second-class citizens, essentially. I bring this story up today because 20 years later, we see history repeating itself. Just yesterday, about 200 miles from here, in the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, we finally ended the armed occupation of that land. Yay! Peacefully. But the occupiers were there because they said the federal government was standing in the way of economic prosperity for rural communities because they hold too much public land. Public lands are a huge part of the West, as I'm sure you know. They account for over 85% of the state of Nevada. And the federal responsibilities for these lands are wide-ranging. But it's not just about the land, it's about the people in it as well. And as we consider what the economic solutions for rural communities are, we have to make sure that racial equity is a part of that equation. So I want to bring up tribal sovereignty and the key aspect of federal government-to-government relations. This brings me to my question to you. How would you have handled a situation like the one that happened in Harney County with the Malheur Wildlife Refuge? And as president, how would you navigate the clash of interests over public lands to assure trust responsibilities to tribes? Thank you.
Well, thank you. And by the way, we begin by talking about gay rights. I think we have made progress in this country over the last many decades in becoming a less discriminatory society. We still have a very, very long way to go. You're looking at somebody back in 1996 who voted against this disastrous DOMA legislation. Wasn't a popular vote then. All right, but I did. All right. Let me take the radical position that public lands belong to the public. And let me take the equally radical idea that those people, indigenous people, who in a sense have owned those lands for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, cannot continue to be exploited and run over. All right? So I think that the best way to deal government to government, if you like, as you mentioned, is that the federal government must recognize that in the Native American community, in the African American community, and the Latino community, we face enormous economic problems. And then when we focus our financial resources from the federal government, they have got to go into those communities who need it the most. And as often as not, that is the Native American community. Now, how do you do it? You do it from a top-down approach, which clearly has not worked for well over 100 years, or do you say, let's sit down and talk? We have resources. What do you need? How do we create local jobs? How do we protect your environment? You guys know that issue better than we do in Washington. We have resources. Let's work in a mutually respectful way, and let's go forward. Okay? Thank you.